What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live, powered by BetUS, here on a Thursday. Today, Skype officially died. So rest in peace to what we've streamed our calls through for 6 years, man. That's why the stream's going live a little bit late. I wasn't expecting that. They said Skype shut down, and then it was fine last stream, and then today it officially died. So rest in peace to Skype. Still, we got Eric here. We're going to talk about some fun things today, man. We're going to talk about the Blazers. The draft lottery is on Monday. We're going to talk about what they should do if they move up to pick number 1, to pick number 2, to pick number 3, to pick number 4, as well as some targets if they don't get so lucky, which is obviously the most realistic scenario. We'll also do officially our final, or maybe our second final lottery sim. Maybe we do one right before the draft lottery, which we'll be streaming on Monday. We'll go live, I don't know, I'll go live like 45 minutes before. Eric, what's going on, man? How are you doing? And the draft lottery is a little early on Monday, so are you going to be able to be there?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's not before like 4 o'clock, it should be good.
Yeah, well, I think the official lottery is at 4 o'clock.
Oh, okay. It's before the game.
Yeah.
I should be good. I should be good.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Maybe we see what Crushables is up to as well. You know, always fun to have him on. And yeah, I would feel a little lonely trying to react to the Blazers getting Cooper Flag by myself. So, you know, I'll have the champagne ready to go, man. I mean, the Blazers have a 3.7% chance at a history-altering ordeal getting Cooper Flag. I think Cooper Flag would be phenomenal on this team, so we can just cross our fingers and hope and pray. But yeah, man, how's your week treating you? How's your Thursday treating you?
Pretty good. Had a very busy week at work. Basically done with my training and off on my own for the first time this week. That's been interesting. But yeah, fortunately, the series we watched tonight's been kind of marred by injuries to stars on both sides. But yeah, looking forward to the lottery on Monday.
You know what's funny is I had a comment to my girlfriend after the Knicks came back from another 20-point deficit to beat the Celtics again. I told her, I was like, these playoffs are awesome. This is amazing. There's just no blowouts. Even when a game looks like a blowout, it doesn't end up being a blowout. And then OKC dismantled Denver, and then we got this game tonight. So I apologize. That's my bad. I jinxed it. Because we've gotten two bummer of games. Up until this point, it had been the road team literally winning every game. We don't have the scene set up for the playoffs and stuff because we have to. Skype is tied in. So yeah, well, until that OKC game, you had the first 6 games of the second round, the road team won because the Pacers went up 2-0, the Knicks went up 2-0, Golden State went up 1-0, Denver went up 1-0 on that Aaron Gordon game winner, which should hopefully make for a long series at least. I think, you know, you look at the East, a Pacers-Knicks Eastern Conference Finals, I would love, to be honest. That would be really cool to see those teams go at it in a conference finals. Of course, they've had some historical battles in the playoffs just before I was born, I believe. Or maybe it was right after I was born. So, yeah, it would be an exciting series, and I'm excited. I was worried like Celtics might sweep the Knicks. I know I picked the Celtics in 5, and I've been dead wrong on that series so far, but I'm happy about it. I kind of want the Knicks to win. So, what are your thoughts on the second round so far?
I mean, you can argue about which team you want to win or whatever if you're a fan of or rooting for a certain team, it not being great. But, man, every game outside of tonight's game was a little boring. And then, obviously, OKC wins by, 43 or something last night. So, the other games, though, man, wildly entertaining. And even when OKC got up, it was like, oh, are they gonna blow this lead or what's gonna happen? So, yeah, it's been very intriguing, and anytime the road team wins one, let alone 2 games on the road to start a series, puts the other team in a really deep hole, and now we have to see if which teams can dig themselves out of it. If Boston, which, like you said, they've been up 20 in both games. They should have a 2-0 lead in this series. Instead, find themselves down 2-0 headed to New York. Are they going to pull themselves out from whatever hole they're in, or are they just going to wilt away? I can't believe we might be talking about a Indiana-New York finals right now, or Eastern Conference finals. That would be so weird considering how great the Cavs season was and how good Boston was coming off a championship last year.
Yeah, and then the Timberwolves squared things up today. I mean, Golden State didn't have Steph, so you kind of expected Minnesota to have their way with Golden State today. Julius Randle had a great game, 24, 11, and 7 for him. And Minnesota evens up the series. We'll see if Steph Curry can return at any point this series. He's dealing with a hamstring strain, which is not necessarily an easy injury to quickly return from. So it would suck if the Warriors, I'm not rooting for the Warriors. I know I picked them to go to the finals as like my Cinderella team, and they've looked good so far in this year's playoffs. I'm not rooting for them though. I'd never root for the Warriors, but you would hate to see their run get ended just off an injury to Steph Curry. But I've always said this: injuries are part of the playoffs, and a big part of being able to make a run into June is just being able to withstand the stresses of an NBA season on your body. Like it's easy to break down. That's why you don't want to go to 7 games in the first round. You want to get that over. You want that rest and recuperation. And you look at Steph, he gets hurt game 1 after a 7-game first round against the Rockets. What if Golden State closed that out in 5? Would Steph be healthy? I don't know. Of course, nobody knows. But that's why you got to try and take care of series early in the first round if you can. Of course, at the end of the day, you just got to win. But that was one thing maybe with the Rockets fighting back in that series, and Steph is getting up there in age, that it's a lot of wear and tear, heavy minutes, physical basketball, playoff intensity. That stacks up. So hopefully he can return at some point in the series. I'd love for the series to go long and be competitive. I think this is a competitive series if he's healthy. But man, imagine Minnesota-Indiana finals. I saw posts about, how much Adam Silver would hate that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this series almost got worse with Anthony Edwards going down. He looked like it was a serious ankle injury, and somehow it just comes back in the game like everything's fine. Not that he had a great game. It's actually now 3 subpar games in a row for him, but it looked like we were going to have the rest of the series without possibly Steph or Anthony Edwards at one point. But for some reason, that guy, all his teammates said he just doesn't get hurt or something. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. You know what's crazy? I am kind of rooting for Indiana, Minnesota, man. Because the narratives, these playoffs have been exciting. I've loved the postseason this year. I think a lot of competitive games. Seemingly, there's good parity right now. I know the Cavs have been hurt, but I still think the Pacers were going to be competitive in that series. And I think you have to give the Pacers credit for making clutch time plays. Tyrese Halliburton, I mean, he's making a case for being the most clutch player in the league right now. He's been phenomenal in the clutch the past year and a half or so. So he hits another game winner. And then Mikal Bridges clutched defensively. 2 straight game-sealing steals in the final seconds against Boston. People don't... Sometimes I feel like people don't remember every season feeling like, yeah, the regular season and playoffs are just BS because it's just going to be Golden State and Cleveland again. That sucked. So the parity right now in the playoffs, the competitiveness, the close games, I think is a lot of fun. And I think it's what the NBA needs. But if you saw Indiana and Minnesota in the finals, everybody would complain about it being Indiana and Minnesota, even though it's great basketball, competitive basketball that produces that. Well, I shouldn't say everybody, but there'd be a large section of people complaining about that. Go ahead.
Going back to Halliburton for a second, I know you saw this tweet, but I had seen it too prior to you posting it in a GC. But this season, he's 10 for 11 on game tying or taking the lead shots in the final like 2 minutes of a game or something. It's insane. 10 of 11.
Yeah, man. And I mean, I think they have the better roster than Cleveland, with Cleveland missing, Hunter, Mobley, Garland. Like, Indiana should win that game. At the same time, to be able to come back again from being down 7 in the final minute, just like they did to Milwaukee, like, you just got to tip your hat, Like, they did not play the best game, but how many teams do we see not play the best game and lose that type of game in the playoffs, and they never have that type of comeback? Because that type of comeback was pretty unheard of until the Pacers started doing it multiple times. Right? So that's where it's just like, I'm going to give them credit. I know the narrative is just going to be, oh, they just get so lucky with the injuries and they play teams at the right time all the time. And yeah, I mean, that's true. Having good players on the other team injured definitely helps your case. But at the same time, it didn't help the Blazers' case in 2021. They lost to freaking, what was his name? What was the foreign guy? What was his name? I'm blanking.
The what?
He was the guard, the foreign guy. He was from Europe.
On what?
On Denver. Sorry, when the Blazers played Denver in the playoffs, Denver was super injured, but it didn't matter. The Blazers still lost.
What was that guy's name? He sucked.
Yeah, except against us.
Yeah.
Chat. Somebody in chat has to have it. I know. It's driving me crazy.
I'm picturing him, but
first person in chat to get it gets a shout out.
Oh yeah,
Compazzo, yeah, Gregory.
Compazzo, yeah.
Facu Compazzo. Yeah. See,
I don't want to get this demonetized.
Yeah. See, he was we can't even remember his name, but he cooked us for no reason in that playoffs. Well, I mean, he wasn't like scored 20 or 30, but it was one of those guys that was just like made all the winning plays and was just a thorn in the side. And Dame was trying to carry the team. It didn't matter. The Blazers still found a way to lose that series. So when I see a team like Indiana do what they're doing, I'll just give them credit for finding ways to win basketball games. It's still tough to beat that team on the road, even with their injuries. I mean, the Blazers played a phenomenal game and still lost to them in Cleveland without Donovan Mitchell. So, I think if you're trying to determine how good a team is in the regular season, if they're playing against a bunch of injured teams, it's tough to get a true gauge on it. In that context, should be taken into account. But it doesn't really matter in the playoffs. In the playoffs, all that matters is, are you winning games or are you losing games? If you're winning games, your season's going to go longer. If you're losing games, it's not. So that's all that matters. The Pacers are getting the job done. They have to get it done at home. I would love to see the Cavs healthy to see if the Pacers can beat them a couple games healthy. I think they can. I would take the Pacers in this series right now. I know the odds, according to BetUS, for Celtics-Knicks is even right now. My question for you, Eric, before we wrap up this playoff talk, which one of those two teams is most likely to come back from being down 2-0, losing 2 home games to start the series?
Oh, it's definitely Boston. I know they've got an injury issue with, some are claiming it's not an injury, it's something else, but the Porzingis situation, but it's definitely the Celtics. Can't count on the Cavs to be healthy at this point. Last year they had the unfortunate Jared Allen injury that cost them a chance of moving on further. And then this year, when you have that many guys injured, even if they all come back, they're not going to be 100%. So I think both teams could come back from 0-2, but you've got to think that Boston is the much better team, even with missing a couple guys. So they should be able to come back. I'd actually be surprised if they don't. So
if you had to pick who wins the series right now, considering the odds are even, would you still take Boston or would you go with New York at this point?
Who was it? Barkley or someone that said that Game 3 was a must-win for New York? It's kind of funny to think about that way.
Wasn't it a must-win for both teams? Because if the Celtics go down 3-0...
Yeah. But
they would be the team to be the first team to come back for being down 3-0 against New York.
They almost did against Miami 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Or I guess that was that 3 years ago now?
I don't remember. They played like those back-to-back years.
Because they were down 3-0 and we had a stream thinking we were going to trade for Jaylen Brown, remember?
Oh, yeah. That was in the middle of the Jaylen Brown.
They didn't win a championship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now this offseason, there's rumors about them cap dunking cap dumping to get under the second apron. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Would be something to watch, especially if they lose early. Because if they win another championship, it's like, all right, you're trying to three-peat. I feel like it's more justifiable for an ownership group, and they have a new ownership group, so I don't really know exactly what their plan is. But if they lose to New York, I don't know. You could see them take a step back by trading a piece. I don't know what piece that is. Porzingis or Holiday is the rumor right now, but I think New York's winning the series. I'm taking the Knicks. I just think the Knicks are going to win one of two in games 3 or 4, and then they're going to find a way to win one of the final 3 games. They'll just find a way. I think, that arena, well, ticket prices are going to be super high. Like, the cheapest ticket is like $700 in Madison Square Garden. So is that crowd going to be watered down with a bunch of rich people that don't cheer? Or is it going to be a good atmosphere in Madison Square Garden? It's there's definitely going to be an atmosphere there, but diehard fans that maybe don't have, $700 to spend on a freaking nosebleed ticket generally are your loudest fans. So, I definitely would not be spending $700 on a nosebleed ticket, man. That would be brutal. That's insane. So it'll be interesting to see the
second
atmosphere.
round. Maybe it's finals. Or
Exactly.
Just
So
get in the door, right?
we'll see what the atmosphere is in MSG, but I'm really looking forward to Game 3, man. The East has been really fun to watch so far in the playoffs. What we need to do our Tankathon sim, and then we need to talk about certain outcomes. All right. And I'm feeling good tonight.
Set this up by the first roll we get first, second roll we get second, third roll we get third.
That'd be sick.
Right? And then we can just talk about each one.
That'd be sick. That'd be perfect. Well, fingers crossed. I feel good. I think the Blazers are moving up on this spin, okay? I really do. Oh, where'd Eric go? Hold on. See, Eric's... Wait. See, this is... I already missed Skype because I have Eric in StreamYard and I'm capturing that instead, so we'll have to figure something out. Rest in peace to Skype. Timothy says, love the cut. Appreciate all the compliments on the haircut. I saw some last stream, but I didn't acknowledge them. And I should have. I appreciate it. Thank you. Shout out to my barber because it was about time I got a freaking haircut. All right. Take it on. Here we go. Wait, let me just... This is malpractice. I need to make your webcam right. So just give me a second to do that. That's pretty quick. That's pretty well done. Proud of myself. All right. Although I need to fix this. All right. So here are the odds. You guys know the deal. Basically, on lottery day, assuming you're a Blazer fan, you want to see a Houston logo or a San Antonio logo or a Toronto logo or a Brooklyn logo before you see Portland's. That means Portland moved up. So let's say, 14, 13, 12, 11 is those teams shown there. At 10, you want to see a different logo than Portland's. In case you're new to the draft lottery, welcome to the tanking process that always ends in this, although the Blazers' odds this year, of course, nowhere near as good. Nowhere near as good, man. I'm like... Previous years, I was really excited to go into lottery day, and this year it's kind of just like, let's just get this over with, Do you feel the same way?
Yeah. Yeah, just let us know what we're picking.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you. I don't think we're going to move up. I mean, like when they start revealing the little logos and stuff, for a brief minute I'll be like, please. Yeah. But like, it won't be. I'll be expecting it to not.
Yeah. Like I'm not gonna be super disappointed. I'm fully expecting it. Now, if they jump into the top 4, then you'll see me complete mood switch, man. Like I couldn't even imagine. So yeah, I mean, it could happen. There's a 17% chance that they move up. So it's not impossible, but let's simulate this thing. Let's scroll up from the bottom as normal. Let me make sure everything's showing up right. Yes, it is. Okay. Well, actually,
Gregory has an idea for how we can be transparent with the lotto results.
how's that?
Adam Silver could just go up there with Tankathon up on a laptop and just hit Sim Lottery. And that's
That would
that's the
actually
order.
be hilarious.
That'd be pretty funny.
Just
Yeah.
reveal it the way that we reveal it too.
No, you can't do that because it's all got to be on screen. So it's just like, bam, in
Yeah.
like a couple seconds. There's your
There's
order.
there. Yeah, that would be funny. That would actually be funny. We'll do that after this. 14 we got San Antonio via Atlanta. 13 we got Atlanta via Sacramento. 12 we have Chicago. 11 we have Dallas, and at 10 we have your Portland Trailblazers. At 9 we have Houston via Phoenix. At 8 we have San Antonio. See, if the Blazers don't move up and I see like Houston and then San Antonio, like I'm happy. You know what I mean? Like at least they're not picking top 4.
Yeah. We got to at least maintain the status quo in the West.
Yeah.
Can't
Absolutely.
be letting any team form another dynasty on top of OKC.
Yeah. And if the Pelicans get the number 1 pick and get Cooper Flag, I guess Zion is a Blazer. So, there's there's that. At 7, we have Toronto. Okay, good. No Philadelphia to OKC there. Perfect. At 6, we have Philadelphia. And at 5, we have Washington. At 4, we have Utah. At 3, we have New Orleans. At 2, we have Charlotte, which means the number 1 overall pick goes to Brooklyn. I have a feeling Brooklyn's going to win the lottery.
No, I'm not too upset with that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it sucks Portland to move up, but
Yeah. Like, this is fine. This is definitely fine.
Yeah.
It'd be even better if, like, Washington and Philadelphia were 3 and 4 instead of New Orleans and Utah. That'd be perfect if the Blazers don't move up. But for your idea, this is what would happen for your idea if we did that Adam Silver goes to the podium, is screen sharing his laptop and sims the lottery. All right, here you go. Congrats, Philadelphia. Hey, Portland got 3rd pick. I like that idea.
Let's do that.
Let's do that, please. That's a great idea. That'd be our reaction. Is like, oh, Philadelphia. Oh, we're 3rd. Nice. I think Brooklyn's going to win it. Who's your gut feeling for who's going to win the lottery? Chat, you can let me know in chat as well.
I think it's gonna be Utah.
Utah?
Yeah. They like never win.
I know, but that's why they're never going to win.
I know.
Yeah. Spurs because F us and parity. Dallas, Spurs, Washington, Utah. Yeah, I think Brooklyn. And then you're going to hear like Giannis to Brooklyn to pair with Flag rumors all offseason. That is my prediction. All right. Let's talk about... Well, since we're talking about Giannis, the Blazers are up there in terms of odds for Giannis. Shout out to BetUS for the graphic, okay? Remember the promo code YouTube150 that gives you 150% bonus, followed by two 125% bonuses up to $2,000. If you think Giannis is going to be a Blazer, you can get plus 1,200 odds. Plus 1,200 odds. But there's a reason I say we'd have Brooklyn rumors all offseason for Giannis, because they are even odds, and this is if he gets traded. So if he's not on the Bucks next year, who is his next team? I was surprised to see Brooklyn at even odds, Eric.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. Brooklyn, just because they have picks now to trade and they have cap space. They have a couple of young players, but I don't know. I guess they could bypass the rebuild, but they kind of set themselves up to finally rebuild just last offseason. This goes back to conversations we've had about when you decide to do a rebuild, you can't then decide less than a year later or whatever that you're not going to do a rebuild anymore and you're going to go all in and try to make the playoffs or whatever. Now, maybe they make enough moves around Giannis to make it a championship contender or whatever. Great. Maybe they win a championship and justify it. But I don't know. I find it weird that these teams just give up on their long-term strategy when they executed it very well last year with getting all those picks for McHale and then setting themselves up to not be one of those teams that suck but have to give up their picks like the Clippers have done for years so they can't ever rebuild or whatever. So, yeah, I feel like it's weird if they just go on for Giannis with using all their assets.
The thing is they have cap space, so it'd be interesting to see, like, okay, then do they get somebody in free agency? I actually like Brooklyn. Outside of a Giannis trade, I like Brooklyn as a Ty Jerome destination this offseason because it's going to be tough for Cleveland to pay him. And I think he's played good enough to go start somewhere for, like, a team like Brooklyn. Just, 3-year, maybe 20 mil a year might seem a little rich, but you just make the third-year team option so you can get out of it. See what he does as a starter because, like, he averaged, like, 22 per 36 efficiently this year for Cleveland. So his free agency is going to be fascinating to watch. But if OKC lost to Denver, I feel like their odds go up. Ultimately, Milwaukee's going to need a ton of assets. If it's the Rockets, like Şengün and Jalen Green and picks. The interesting part about the Rockets or the Nets is like, okay, they have other teams' picks. The Bucks ultimately want to get their picks back from New Orleans. Is there a team's picks that Milwaukee could get back for Giannis from like Brooklyn or Houston that they could then flip to New Orleans for their own picks back, and then New Orleans could use those picks to like go after a player on, which is just like convoluted, but the player I was thinking of is like KD if he's available this offseason, and New Orleans with their new GM just like wants to be competitive and hope that Zion's healthy, and you pair like KD with a top 4 pick maybe and Trey Murphy and just see what that looks like next year. I don't know. So like, the Suns picks, right? Because the Rockets have the Suns picks. You could see some creative weird stuff, I think. I don't know. I've been messing around too much on the trade machine, obviously.
Yeah. I think, for me with KD, it's like he's going to be a little biatch wherever he goes that he doesn't want to be, right? So I can't see him.
Yeah, New Orleans is weird.
Like being happy being in New Orleans.
I
right?
think if he's a playoff team, I think he'd be excited to play next to Zion, but who knows how many games you're going to play next to Zion. And it's like if they get Dylan Harper as well and Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, I don't know. Maybe Herb Jones has to go out for KD. I don't know. But like you got pieces. That team could be pretty decent. Zion is your number 1. KD is your number 2. I don't know. Like KD's saga is going to be super fascinating to watch. Ultimately, I don't think Giannis gets traded just because it doesn't make sense for the Bucks to fully rebuild if they don't have their picks, and it's going to take so much to get Giannis. I just don't think he gets traded. But they're not going to be good next year. They are not going to be good next year. And if Giannis misses like 20 games at any point, I don't think they're making the playoffs. Like maybe they'll make a 10th seed, play their way in, whatever. But that supporting cast is awful. And with no Dame, it's basically Giannis versus the world.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I love about following the NBA and the off seasons and stuff. Just the storylines, the storylines around the Bucks and, will the Nets make a play for him? The storylines around Kevin Durant. Their new GM is even worse than Neil Olshey with buzzwords. And his 3 buzzwords I saw were alignment, vision, and I forget the third one, but he said alignment like 20 times in his introductory press conference. Somebody was counted. So, but shout out to BetUS. Do you want in on any of these lines on the graphic? I think Orlando would be interesting. I don't think Golden State's happening. Portland has Milwaukee's future picks in 2028, 2029, and 2030. And some young talent. Maybe Burt Cold really wants Giannis next year to stick it to Dame. I don't know. You know, that'd be kind of funny trading Dame to Milwaukee and then trading for Giannis to come to Portland. But we'll see what happens with Giannis. I don't think he's going anywhere, but you can get in on the action with BetUS promo code U2150. All right, I'm excited for this. My question for chat, my question for you, Eric, is if the Blazers get the number one pick, how would Cooper Flag fit? How would you build the roster the rest of the offseason? Who would you bring off the bench? Is there any vets on this team that become more or less imperative to move if the Blazers get Cooper Flag? Basically, how does he change the trajectory of the Blazers offseason for you if the Blazers can get the number one overall pick?
I mean, obviously, I think the conversation changes from can we make the playoffs to how can we maximize this championship window we might have. And so I think I would be much more inclined to possibly attach something to Jeremy to get rid of that contract.
Yeah, because that's enticing for free agents next year if the Blazers sitting there with that core, Cooper Flag, and then all that cap space. I don't know. I don't even know who's available, but
yeah. So what you could do is, I mean, I've talked about this before, but you could get creative and basically sign a trade for players in free agency this year, way overpay them to entice them to sign, but make this second and third years non-guaranteed. And then you could basically trade Jeremy for any free agent that you want to do that, and the other team would want Jeremy Grant for basically free / maybe an asset.
But like at least you could justify attaching the asset to like pull off the side and trade with the guy you're bringing in.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we have Tamani, we have Denny, we have Cooper. Like we don't really like Jeremy does not fit at all anymore.
No.
So
No.
get him out of there. And then everyone else you can pretty much, I mean, if you're trying to win a championship instead of develop, I guess at that point, I guess you kind of keep everyone and look for upgrades, but yeah, and maybe just set your sights on that 2026 offseason with cap space. So just let Anthony and Ayton walk then in that situation. I don't know.
Yeah, I almost think like, it makes sense to kind of chase that cap space if you have Cooper Flag, so it makes more sense to try and get something for Ant as soon as possible. Yeah. Instead of letting him walk, like if you can get something, if you can't get anything, then like what's the difference? What's the difference, right? But I would want Ayton gone more because I would want the Blazers to run some lineups with like Denny, Flag, Tamani, and two guards. Because Flag can protect the rim, really good help side. I think Denny, 6'9", can handle the ball. I think that lineup could be lethal offensively and big enough defensively to make it work. We see OKC sometimes run five guards and run these lineups. So, it's kind of like the NBA is getting more positionless, where you see a lot of successful teams going smaller than ever, but also some successful teams that play with two bigs. And OKC can do both. They have Chet and Hartenstein, but they can play without either of them on the floor. Sometimes they put Jalen Williams at the 5, and they're still really, really good, and they just fly around defensively and compete on the boards and all that. So, if you're Portland, like, that lineup is bigger than a lot of the small lineups that OKC plays. And I think Cooper Flag, if he's small ball 5, like, I think maybe as a rookie it would be tough, but long term, him and Denny and Tumati and Scoot and Sharp, or if you keep Ant and Sharp, I like that. I like that combination. Now, if you're sitting here with DA and Klingon and maybe Robert Williams, you have so many centers already that I don't think the Blazers would go to that. So that's where it's like, okay, you start Klingon, you start Flag, you start Denny, you bring Tamati off the bench as just a great sixth man defensive piece, and you move forward from there. And it would be nice to have a backup center you didn't have to play, where you could experiment with that lineup that I'm talking about, especially if you keep Ant and you have Scoot off the bench and you might need to go to more smaller lineups. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see you doing that. I mean, I guess they still could, no matter who's on the roster, but
Yeah.
I don't trust them, much like your conversations this summer or this offseason have been about not trusting them to play the guards in the right way. So, yeah, but I think you've got to feel pretty dang good about your forward situation in that case, right? You have 3 starting level forwards for sure.
3 starting level guards.
You have
And
3 starting level guards.
3 starting level centers.
Yeah. I mean, that's super deep.
Yeah.
I don't really know what you add. Maybe just some depth in case someone's hurt or
I
something.
just, yeah, like you just be adding insurance policies beyond that if you kept that lineup intact. But that's why I think if they get flagged, it's like they are going to be even more aggressive trying to consolidate a little bit and get better.
Yeah.
I would fully expect that. Now, the thing is, like, Zion is the clearest target for that, but, like, if you have flag, Zion doesn't really make much sense to me. So, I have no idea who that target is. Honestly, I feel like it'd be Sabonis if he's available, and them thinking, like, man, Flag and Sabonis is a great pairing at the 4 and 5. Flag can cover for Sabonis defensively. Flag, good cutter, good off-ball player, could play off Sabonis' passing, like... That's what I think it would be. I think you would see like Jeremy and Ayton for Sabonis, and like I don't know if they have another big salary piece that they'd want to get rid of, but like that's kind of where my mind goes. And then the Blazers attach a ton of picks, and you go into next season with that. The thing is if the Blazers have Cooper Flag, I still don't like trading for Sabonis, but I hate it less. Because you're sitting there with, like, Flag should be our number 1 guy long-term, our all-star, the guy we build around, and Sabonis needs to be the number 2 there. Whereas if you do it without getting Flag, it's like Sabonis has to be the number 1 long-term, which I don't like anywhere near as much, of course.
The question just becomes, like, do you need... Like, obviously this year our defense improved to the point where you feel pretty good about it, and our offense is still the biggest question mark. But if you have Cooper... Does that make your defense so good that, like, I mean, it's still good offensively, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, do you necessarily need, like, a mostly offensive player that not good on defense when that kind of is what got you to go? Like, so basically what I'm saying is, are we better off with just having the defensive-minded Klingon with that group versus moving towards someone who's not going to protect the rim at all? And we have all these great perimeter defenders / help defenders, but don't have the rim protection necessarily back to back it all up. So
you talked me out of liking it a little bit more with Flag. Now I do not, because yeah, you go all in on being a top 3 defensive team, and Flag offensively with your guards. Like, all right, that should eventually at some point, with the right coaching, be a borderline top 10 offense at minimum. If you got a 9th ranked offense and a 3rd ranked defense, you should be able to contend, right? Like, that's the goal. If you could be top 5 in one area, top 10 in another, with Flag, with Klingon, with Tamani, Denny, right? Scoot, if he continues to progress defensively. Sharp's kind of the weak link, but you have a couple of players off the bench who are 2-way players, 3 and D guys that can really shoot around those guys and play defense as well. Then that's the recipe for having a contender down the line. So, yeah, I don't know. It's like, is Sabonis going to improve the offense so much that it's worth the defensive downgrade would be what the question is. And with the way you put it, I don't know. I don't know, because it's hard to be an elite defense with a guy like Sabonis protecting the rim. The Rockets kind of did it with Alperen Şengün, but, their offense is kind of what got them into trouble, so maybe it is doable. But I don't know. I do like just being an absolutely lethal defensive team.
Yeah, and I feel like if you had Tamani, Denny, Cooper, Klingon, and I don't know if it's Aiton or I mean Aiton doesn't really fit what I'm about to say. Robert Williams does more so, but can't count on him. So maybe that's where you go. You try to find um, another rim protecting center. Um, but I feel like if you have that front court, it doesn't really matter how bad our defense is for the guards. I feel like we'll be able to overcome any as long as they're trying and giving effort on defense and not just like completely giving up or falling asleep off ball. I feel like that defensive unit front on the front court could make up for any kind of lack of defense that backcourt has. So, I mean, if you get improved defense, if Scoot, like for example, took another similar jump to on defense like he did last year and becomes a positive defender as well, like man, that team is tough, man, and
Yeah.
they're all kind of like strong and physical and stuff too, and man, I wouldn't want to try to score on that team.
Man, please make it happen, Adam Silver. Like it. If the Blazers got the number one pick, it would honestly be one of the greatest moments of my life. And like, I would maybe say
Better
that
than
if
Wemby.
well, if we got Wemby, that would have been one of the greatest moments of my life too. Like that would have been even better probably. But like at the end of the day, man, as a fan, obviously it's amazing, but also just like covering the team too is just the extra cherry on top for like that would be amazing to be able to cover him and post game shows talk about how he's playing and of course the clicks, man. He's a content machine. He's a content machine. So unfortunately, Scoot has not been as good as we were hoping for. So it's a little tougher. He's still a content machine, but getting Cooper Flag, man, it would be really fun as a fan, and then really just even that much more fun to cover the team.
Can you imagine if we had Wemby? How much different these
And
last 2 years would have
still had
been.
Dame, and yeah,
Um, but no, I kind of for once I'm going to agree with Ed Halen in chat.
wow,
I I will never forget the feeling of getting Odin or winning that draft lottery. It was crazy, and that was a draft you that people were looking forward to for
yeah,
years. That 2007 draft, and we're coming off a season where, at the time, pre-injury, we had basically robbed the NBA of the two best players in that draft uh, via trading up from 4 to 2 and trading up from 7 to 6 for very little, basically cash and scrub players.
yeah, really weird.
So just the high of that, seeing those two players, Brandon Roy winning what should have been unanimous Rookie of the Year outside of
Mm-hmm.
one Toronto Raptor voter, um, but him getting Rookie of the Year, Aldridge looking like a solid player, and then winning that lottery when everyone was talking about how there was two like generational players or
Mm-hmm.
two star players at the top of that draft. I mean, I've told the story before, but I was working at Office Depot. I called one of my friends so I could listen to it. And then I literally ran around the store like screaming for like 5 minutes, like just going crazy. It was so fun. And then yeah, there had the whole like uh beep once for Odin and beep
Yeah,
twice for Durant or whatever. And yeah.
Blazers should have beeped twice. Damn it. But I remember that actually. I was 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was 10 years old. I remember that though. I remember being pretty excited, but like I didn't really. I was just getting into basketball. Like the last year was the first year I watched and like got really into it. So like Brandon Roy helped me get into being a big Blazer fan his rookie year because it was just super exciting watching him his rookie year. So yeah, that was that was those were good. That was good times. That's one of my earliest Blazer memories for sure, and this would top it for me just because obviously I'm not 9 years old anymore. Well, some people might say I am, but it would be huge. It would be amazing. So
Physically, you're not. Emotionally, it's a different.
emotionally, I've gone backwards. So yeah. I will say, if the Blazers get Cooper Flag, profanity is going to be flowing from me, and I'm not going to hold it back. I'm warning you now. All right, I'm warning you now. If you're watching with your family, like, hopefully they understand, because I'm losing my mind. I also am I will do a 24-hour live stream at some point, is the promise, if we get Cooper Flag. That is my gift to the lottery gods. All right? That is my gift to the lottery gods. I will do a 24-hour live stream. That's what I'll do for Cooper Flag. All right?
Maybe the lottery guys don't want you to do that, so we're not going to get it.
Well, I don't know why they would. It's a sacrifice to the lottery gods. Right? Sacrificing 24 hours for a 24-hour live stream. At some point, I will do a 24-hour live stream for charity or something. I don't know. It'd be fun too. But like, I feel like there needs to be an occasion, So hopefully that occasion is Cooper Flag. Hopefully we capture the flag. And let's say we don't capture the flag. Let's say it comes down to the final two picks. Oops, that's the wrong graphic. Where's the right one? There we go. Let's say it comes down to the final two picks and the Blazers are number 2. If it comes down to the final two picks and the Blazers are one of them, the other team's going to be Charlotte. I'm just telling you right now. But let's say the Blazers get 2, Charlotte gets Cooper Flag, and they get to ruin his career. Who should the Blazers take, chat? I'm going to do a chat poll. I'm going to toss some names in it. Okay? I'm going to let you guys start to vote before I say. But if you've been paying attention to the channel, you know who I'm taking number 2. But here's the chat poll. Who should the Blazers take at number 2? We got Dylan Harper. We got Ace Bailey. I'll even toss VJ Edgecombe, and I'll put an other option. Should I even put another option?
Sure.
Other. Comment in chat. All right. There's your poll. I'm curious to see the results of this poll. What do you think are going to be the results of this poll, Eric? Do you think they're going to be even, or do you think there's going to be one player running away with it?
Well, I can never say for sure, because there's always people who will click the opposite just to mess up the poll. But I can't see any reason why Dylan Harper doesn't run away with it.
I was thinking this poll was going to be pretty 50-50 between Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. But no, it's so far 31 votes. We got 58% Dylan Harper, 19% Ace Bailey, 19% VJ Edgecombe. We'll do a chat poll for number 3. Eric, who are you taking number 2?
Oh, I think you have to take Dylan Harper and figure it out later. You can't pass up on a talent like that. Even if it doesn't make sense positionally, you figure it out. You trade someone. You bench someone. I don't know. Do whatever you have to do, because Dylan is, I don't know. I don't know if he's guaranteed to be better than anyone we have currently, but I think very quickly he'd supplant whoever's in front of him or whoever's still on the team and take the reins. It might be a year or two, but like I have no doubt that he'll be better than any of our current guards at some point.
Yeah, I'm taking Dylan Harper as well, and then I think if the Blazers take Dylan Harper, they absolutely have to trade Anthony Simons at that point, for me. Because I see Travis comment, Dylan Harper is the Scoot Henderson replacement. I get that, but I would rather just like, you got Scoot, you got Dylan Harper, you got Shaden Sharp. One of those guys has to become a star, right? Like one of those guys, we've talked about the Blazers need upside. They need a future star. It's like just going all in on super high upside young guards. 3 of them. I absolutely would do that, and Ant gets shuffled out there. Some people would rather, trade Scoot, I think, in that scenario and keep Ant, but I think that's lowering your odds of getting a star in the future. You know what I mean? Because I still think that star can be Scoot, and I think that's kind of where people draw the line. It is probably based on how confident they are Scoot can become a star. But, like, I think with Dylan Harper, you have a really good contingency plan to Scoot. And I think at that point, if the Blazers draft Dylan Harper, it becomes imperative for them to start Scoot going into next year, like basically speed it up. Like, all right, it's kind of now or never this year, maybe next year, and there's no more waiting around for him, and it's either sink or swim. Either prove that you are our future star point guard, or we got one right behind you that will be our future star point guard in Dylan Harper.
Are you okay with Scoot coming off the bench if it's Harper starting?
No, dude. No. Because Scoot, I think most people would say he was like a higher regarded prospect coming into the league than Dylan Harper. Like if the draft was today, I think a team would take Scoot over Dylan Harper. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's like Dylan Harper's a rookie. Scoot's going into year 3. You just finally give Scoot the keys. Like, if you didn't give him the keys just for a rookie, like, I think that's ridiculous. You can be a little patient with Dylan Harper. You can be more patient with Dylan Harper than you can with Scoot Henderson. Dylan Harper can still get his minutes as a rookie, right? And you just start Scoot and see if he can take off. And then if he doesn't, then you move forward, year 2, year 3 with Dylan Harper, and he's your guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, the tough part is, what if he's like clearly better right away?
I mean, that's a good problem to have, but it's like I'd rather have like the better young high upside guard coming off the bench behind another one that you're trying to maximize his upside that still has hopefully a lot of upside left in him. I'd rather do that than to bring a young high upside guard off the bench for somebody that isn't really improving and kind of is what he is, and that's not a star, and he's 25. You know what I mean? So, like, I'd be more okay in that scenario with Dylan Harper coming off the bench behind Scoot than I would Scoot coming off the bench behind Ant.
But why can't Scoot come off the bench behind Harper?
Because you're never going to ever give him the keys, and you're basically just saying, like, okay, we are never, ever going to give you an opportunity to start. Even though we drafted you 3rd overall and wasted a 3rd. Basically, you're just sitting there saying, like, yeah, we wasted a 3rd overall pick.
But if Harper's, like, clearly that guy, like, if he is ready for the keys, too, and takes off with running with them.
I don't think anybody is going to clearly be that guy right away. Like, off of preseason or training camp, you're not, like, I don't think they're going to know. They might have an inkling, or they might be like, oh, man, it looks really good in training camp, really good in preseason, but it's like, you got to see him in real action. Real action. So then you just go into that. You go into next year. Dylan Harper's coming off the bench. He's still going to get 20 minutes a game. If he's torching everybody midseason, like, all right, then you have that conversation. But it's like you give Scoot that chance, like at least half a season to start. Basically deciding never to give the keys or start Scoot Henderson to me after taking him 3rd overall when you could have just taken a Men Thompson, who was obviously going to be a good player, is like malpractice to me. It pisses me off. Like, I hate that.
What? Was there a point in last season when you were telling everyone we have to forget that he was the 3rd pick and change our expectations?
Yeah, but there's a different conversation between, like, what do you expect out of Scoot and, like, what is the organization's plan for Scoot, and basically it's them never having a plan to ever even try and give him the keys. That's different than talking about, like, how we're analyzing his game and where he's at. And I think with how much he improved last year, I think it's too early to sit here and say, like, oh, yeah, he's He's a sunk cost.
Well, it's not necessarily saying it's a sunk cost. It's just if someone's better than him, why do you have to give someone else the keys just to make sure we don't ever not give him the keys if someone else needs the keys too?
Because Dylan Harper will get his turn. Like, him not having the keys the first half of his rookie season is not, like, while he's still going to play 28, 29, 30 minutes, is not a terrible thing. It's not as bad as not giving Scoot the keys ever. In my opinion. Chat, let me know what you think. But, yeah, like, at that point, it's like, just trade him this offseason then, if you really never want to give him the keys. But I get it. Wait and see how they look in training camp and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Again, it's not necessarily that they don't want to give him the keys. It's that if they had a player that's better, like if we got Dame back, are you saying we should, like, let's just say Dame was 100% healthy and we never traded him when we drafted Scoot? Like,
yeah, but
should we have never given
the greatest player in our
Scoot
franchise history is a lot different than a rookie?
Well, how do you know Harper's not going to be there?
Yeah, maybe one day, but he's a rookie.
But rookie Dame was good enough to be starting over.
Yeah,
Scoot, right?
rookie Dame was also 22.
Yeah.
Not 19. Like, yeah. Yeah. I just think if there's never... I just feel like we partially will look back at it like, or at least I will. I'll feel like the Blazers kind of wasted Scoot, never giving him an opportunity to start. Like, if he didn't improve last year, sure, I think you could make a case. But he improved so much last year and was so good when he did start.
Yeah, a lot would depend on, like, if we did move on from him, how he did. Like, if he takes off and is really good, or just as good as Dylan Harper on another team, that might be a tougher conversation than if he goes somewhere else and sucks and never.
You know what it'd be? It'd be, oh, look, we traded another guard for a rookie guard. No, you trade Scoot and then you still start Ant over Dylan Harper, and we're having Dylan Harper going into year 3. Like, can he finally start in place of Ant? How about that?
Well, it's going to be making like $40 million by then. So.
Yeah, but could you imagine, like, we trade Scoot, keep Ant, still bring Dylan Harper off the bench behind Ant for like the next 3 years? At that point, it's like, what? You know, what are we doing?
We're a championship team then.
Well, yeah, they'd have to be if they did that. The fan base, I think, even the cronies would crucify him. So, yeah, I that's the thing. Getting Dylan Harper, getting the second pick would be super interesting. I think you have to take him because he's clearly the best player. You can't just sit there and take Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey has too many red flags. I think Edgecombe, you'd have the same problem. Edgecombe's kind of a 2-guard. I guess maybe he could play some 3. It's going to be real interesting to see his measurements, though. I think he might be 6'3", and also is what the Blazers need. Edgecombe doesn't really provide that, but also athleticism and defense, he does fit into what they already have. So I don't know, but he's not a better prospect than Dylan Harper. Blazers have to take Dylan Harper at number 2 and then figure it out. And I don't know. I feel like the Blazers would find a way to choose the worst possible way of figuring it out. You know, like, maybe they'd figure it out. All right. Where are we at here? 3rd pick. There we go. 3rd pick. What if the Blazers get the 3rd overall pick? Okay. This is where things get interesting in a different way, because it's like Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe, or do you trade down, or do you reach for someone? So I'll do a chat poll for that. But Eric, feel free to give your thoughts.
This is really tough for me. I think Scoot at his peak is too similar to VJ, so I would want when it's this close, the thing that pushes me towards Ace Bailey is just he's different than anything else we have, and um, VJ is a little similar, even though I think the chances VJ is a really good player are better than Ace. I just feel like ultimately it'll be one of those situations like we've been talking ad nauseum about how he needs his own team to do that, or his own. He needs the keys to do that. So for me, I like VJ a lot, but I'm probably taking Ace Bailey and just hoping he figures some of his obvious weaknesses out.
Yeah, I'm just still turned off by Ace Bailey, dude. I just can't get over some of the things that he struggles with because I just don't feel like it's stuff that he will learn. But it's also tough to ignore what he does well. He's an amazing prospect from the standpoint of having red flags that are really hard to overlook, as well as traits that make him really special. And I I just like if there's going to be a bust from this top 5, I am fully confident it's going to be Ace Bailey. Like I don't know, could the Blazers afford, like, if Scoot doesn't pan out really all that much, could the Blazers afford to draft another bust in the top 5? You know, like that's what scares me. Then you're just wasting top 5 picks maybe. So that's where I'd probably go VJ Edgecombe. Because it's like when you look at Ace Bailey, it's all right. What's the idea of him? He's 6'10". I don't know, maybe 6'8", 6'9", like somewhere in there. Hits really tough mid-range shots and can shoot. And like has some athleticism in space, but it's not really functional as like a driver or slasher or this or that. Okay, and then the problem with that for me is he did not shoot the 3 ball that well and did not shoot free throws that well. I don't know if he's that good of a 3-point shooter, especially at the NBA level. The way he busts out, like, is just a complete bust is if he comes into the league and is just like a 34% 3-point shooter and then doesn't do much off the dribble and doesn't create for others, and it's just like you got somebody that doesn't really do anything. He's basically Blazers version of Carmelo. I don't know. Like, he shoots a bunch of mid-range shots. Can he be good enough off shooting a bunch of mid-range shots? It's like, for a guy that has to be good shooting threes, I wish he shot a little bit better in college. And then the creation stuff, maybe he can learn, but it's just like the feel things and all that offensively. It's going to be a major work in progress for somebody like him. And he's going to have to put on, I think, a lot of strength in order to kind of use his size to be able to get to the rim. Because I just don't think he has like the quickest first step, quickest burst off the dribble. I think he's going to struggle to turn the corner. I don't think he has really any pick and roll feel, so it's not like he's going to be doing a whole lot out of pick and rolls unless he develops well there. So that's just why I I'm not sold. That's where I just take VJ Edgecombe. You know, he's going to be a great defender. He has offensive upside, elite athlete, like should be good attacking the rim. You take him, you make him kind of the third guard. I think he's more wing and Scoot's more point. So I think Edgecombe is a little bit more of an off-ball player. And we saw Scoot take some strides off the ball. So it's like you just try and develop Edgecombe in a way where he's the best possible prospect he could be, but also to fit in with what you have. And you just try and figure that out. That's what I'd do at 3. I'd take Edgecombe.
Yeah. Marv says, Ace, you want to draft another Grant? I was about to say that next. I feel like at worst, he's a little better than Jeremy Grant. And I think he could be a better rebounder, similar defender maybe. But
I think at worst, he's worse than Jeremy Grant.
Yeah.
I think, Jeremy, these past couple of seasons is like well, not this season, but that's 2 seasons before, was a 40% 3-point shooter. I think the worst version of Ace Bailey is he never becomes that good of a 3-point shooter. Would be my worry. But then also, it's like, does Jeremy have more burst attacking off the dribble than Ace Bailey does? I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, Jeremy learned that. He definitely didn't have that as like a role player early in his career.
Yeah, but I almost feel like he needed his skills to catch up. Like I always felt like he was a little bit more functional athlete than I feel like Ace Bailey is. But maybe that could just be hindsight. Um, if the Blazers drafted Ace Bailey, I'd talk myself into like, oh yeah, he has so much upside, and I'd like the pick. I already know, you know what I mean. But like sitting here right now on May 8th, I'm worried about him. So, but chat, 50% would take Ace Bailey. I'm not surprised by that. 27% say trade the pick. 23% say VJ Edgecombe. Like, is there a realistic trade that you'd rather do there than take Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe? Like maybe it's a trade down.
I just think you have to get like multiple future picks or something. Like I don't know. You'd have to get something, man, and you'd also have to like I kind of did this in the mock off season. I was the Wizards and traded Denny for 1 first-round pick, and I think I had some second-round picks as well. But the main part of it was I also dumped Jordan Poole's contract. Like so with Jeremy, like you basically have to say we want assets plus you're going to find a way to take Jeremy's contract off of us too. Mm-hmm. So maybe that becomes part of the equation to add some extra value. But yeah, I don't really know what the Blazers would be trading for other than assets, and that doesn't really help them now if they're trying.
Yeah, I'd almost rather just like trade down, get a pick to draft Derek Queen or something, get another future pick, and get off Grant's contract. Mm-hmm. And then you can just view Derek Queen as like he has different problems, different type of player, but also an upside swing in the same way Ace Bailey would be.
Yeah, or you could trade back to like 6 or 7, maybe get your guy Knipple.
Yeah.
And get off Grant's contract. Yeah,
that would put them in a really good position going into next offseason and like moving forward.
Sign Ayton and Simon 6 extensions.
Like if they did that, it would either be looked back on as a phenomenal smart move or a terrible awful move, most likely. Because I feel like Ace Bailey's either going to be really good, and it's like, why'd you trade out of that pick when you could have drafted Chris Paul? Like I forget which picks it was back then, but that's how it was looked back as like you should have taken Chris frickin' Paul. Or it's going to be, wow, you dodged the bullet. And apparently the scouting department and front office had the foresight to know that he wasn't going to be that good and got assets out of another team that was tricked. Right? I don't know. I think at the end of the day, the Blazers would just take him. But
I feel like whatever we do will be the wrong decision. Like, I hate that, but that's how I feel with like being a Blazer fan sometimes. Like if we keep the pick, they'll end up sucking or not being as good as we hoped, and it just won't work out. But if we trade them, they'll be a star. Yeah. It will be like, what the? That's what happened with Cronin too, and in Scoot's draft. So like, I definitely know that type of thinking does happen.
Yeah, yeah. Before we move on to pick number 4. If any of you have ever wanted to participate in our mock off-season, let me know. Let me know on Twitter. Let me know on Discord. We got a couple spots left to fill, some interest, so there's going to be more interest in spots. But just want to give everybody an opportunity. Every off-season, we have our mock off-season. We get 30 of us, and we make trades, have a mock draft based on our trades, which we stream, and then we do free agency. It's always a lot of fun. Good opportunity to connect with the community. So if you want to participate, let us know.
Elizabeth Allen always talking trades in chat. It's in here almost every stream.
Hmm.
I wonder if he just doesn't want who he is to be outed or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
What's your excuse, man?
Yeah. By the way, if anybody's confused, Elizabeth Allen in chat, that's a guy. That's a guy on his wife's account. So, um,
Or it's like a shared one, I think.
yeah, or a shared one, or a shared one. You riled him up. I could already tell. I could already tell comments. Riled up comments are coming. We got a what already? Let's go. But yeah, what time is picking team stream this weekend? I've just figured probably Saturday. Saturday's still putting finishing touches. Like Taylor Packer, honorary mod. Let me know. You know, we would love to get some new, fresh people in this thing. Anyway, um, in-person stream, asked Cole. I'm not sure what you mean. Anyway.
Oh, for the lottery, I don't think we're gonna do it.
No, if they were top four, sure. Like, but with them at 10, I mean, we're just expecting disappointment. It'd just be like, all right, it'd be cool, but they're at 10th best odds. So if I have champagne, and the Blazers get the number one pick, I'll pour it on my head though, to make up for it. Okay. I don't think I could do that at a round table. So anyway, fourth pick. I mean, at this point, do you just take Edgecombe, or do you think about somebody else, or then are you really trying to trade down? Are there any sneaky targets?
I mean, you're gonna hate this too, but I would strongly consider taking Trey Johnson.
I don't hate it.
But, oh, you don't know?
I mean, I don't have him that high, but for what the Blazers need, and like measurements matter, and if you like move on from Ant and you have him off the bench that can kind of shoot like Ant at least to replace that shooting loss, and then has the upside and is like a contingency plan to Sharp or Scoot or whatever. I don't hate that.
I feel like he's the better fit with Scoot and on the if we're trying to maximize giving Scoot the keys and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. At 4, it's like, should you draft for fit at all? It's
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not saying it's purely based on that, but yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I think VJ. Oh, VJ. Yeah, VJ's probably got the better chance of being a star.
I'll say this: VJ fits in with the identity the Blazers are trying to build.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe depending on his measurements.
Yeah. But like athleticism,
like
transition, defense.
Yeah.
Play hard.
Yeah.
Nice. I just did a random take-a-thon sim, and the Blazers got the number 1 pick. San Antonio's at 3, Chicago's at 4. It's wild. But yeah, I don't know. Like, if you don't want to take VJ, I kind of like the idea of trying to trade down to a team that would at that point, because I do think there are teams that would really, really want him. And then you take Knipple. So, like, let's say it's Toronto at 7, or even Brooklyn at 6, maybe. Maybe it's one of the teams like Charlotte that fell in the lottery because the Blazers would be up there. So I guess the order would be different. And you can trade down and get, like 6 and another pick. And then if Trey Johnson's still there at 6, like, all right, sure. And if not, you take Knipple and you got that extra asset, and you maybe try and get off Grant's contract in the process. Like, I really like that idea at 3 or 4. Otherwise, it's like I'm just taking Edgecombe for sure at 3 or 4, assuming he's there. Like, if Edgecombe's off the board and Bailey's there at 4, then I can stomach that a little bit more. Anyway, um, targets at
What did
what's up?
chat say?
I didn't do a poll for
Yeah.
this one. I feel like it's just draft VJ is like kind of just the obvious thing at 4, right? So chat, if you do something different other than draft VJ Edgecombe at 4, let me know in the chat. But now, targets if the Blazers don't move up. Who should the targets be? Who is on your radar? I think we've had this conversation before, but not particularly recently.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if Knipple falls, we could use the shooting, all that kind of stuff. Um, if not, I think. I mean, you could talk about some of the guards if we traded someone. Um, like a Jeremiah Fears or a Yakuchonis or somebody like that. I know maybe even for you it would be Demon, possibly. But for me, the pool is Derek Queen, Asia Newell, I mean, you can throw a Knipple in there. And basically Rasheer Fleming, and the one person I think they will consider, I don't know if I would take him at 10, but I think Colin Murray Boyles is in that.
Oh, they'll absolutely consider him. That is such a Blazers pick.
So I feel like if it's not Knipple falling to 10, it's one of those 4 guys. Murray Boyles, Fleming, Queen, or Newell, I feel like would be the 4 guys they kind of choose between.
I feel like it would not be Newell. At this point, I'll just tell you who I'm like not taking or considering at 10.
All right. Okay. Are you from your point of view?
My point of view.
I was going for
what
I think.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But like, like who are the guys you want to is also, I think, because a lot will change between now and draft day, so it's tough to even guess, especially with measurements coming out. But I'm just, my point of view, I'm at the point where I don't consider Asa Newell at 10. I've come around to like having him lower than that and just not thinking that, I don't know. He's just like tweener big that, isn't an elite rebounder, has some good defensive moments, but like shooting isn't really there, has some ball handling flashes, not really there. I don't know. I just feel like his archetype is the type that can be just very mid. And if he was like the type of guy the Blazers needed, then sure, but I just don't think he's the type of guy the Blazers need. And I think he measures in at like 6'9" ish, like 6'9.5" maybe. He's just undersized for the 5, and that's where I like him more. So I don't consider him at 10 anymore. I think the Blazers maybe would, but I've also seen like I think people are expecting him to tumble down draft boards here, especially after the combine. So it'll be interesting to see what his measurements are. I personally would not consider Liam McNeely at 10. I'm just not sold on him. I mean, he shot 87% from the free throw line. I think his shooting, 32%, was just a little bit... I don't know. I think he underachieved as a shooter, but I just don't know if he can be elite. And if he's not an elite shooter, I don't really know what exactly he is at the NBA level. So I don't consider him. Like, I would maybe consider Will Riley before Liam McNeely. But not at 10, of course. And then, like, Sorber, if he rises there, no. Like, Serif, no. The guys that are really on my radar, though, would be Queen, Knipple, of course. Yakuchonis if he falls there. I actually don't hate Colin Murray Boyles, and I'll get into why in a second. Demon, Sengwe, Fleming. Those are kind of like my 7 guys there. Neat Clifford. Yeah, those are my 8 guys. So it's like a big crop of prospects, but that's what happens when you're drafted at 10. You're choosing between a bunch of different guys. Or if you're drafted at 3 or 4, it's like, oh yeah, this is going to be the guy. It's going to be Scoot, like, or Hart or Brandon Miller. So I will say, Colin Murray Boyles, if you could develop his shot, like if you could figure out how to teach him how to shoot, he, I think, has an all-star impact. And it's like, if you're trying to still get upside at that point in the draft, it's like every prospect is going to have flaws. But if there's a guy where it's like, all right, we just got to get him to become a 35, 36% three-point shooter, and then he's just like an insanely good role player to the point that, you know, he might have like an all-star level impact, I can come around to that train of thought because he moves really well. He can handle the ball a little bit. He has good passing flashes, passing feel. Defense is insane. I think he'll be a great defender in the league. I know the Blazers need shooting, and he has kind of like everything but shooting, but it'd be one of those things where it's like, if you could develop his shot, he could be a top 3 player from the class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Taylor Packer asked me earlier about Carter Bryant and if that's his current draft crush, and he was wondering if the Blazers could possibly consider him at 10.
I saw him in a mock draft at 9 yesterday, so it's possible.
I feel like he's definitely the type that could I mean, there's several of these kind of guys, but I feel like he could wow some teams in some workouts and show some things that he didn't necessarily get to show at Arizona this year, and so I could see him rising up.
He does feel to me like an OKC pick at 15. OKC has the 15th pick. Like, he just feels like an OKC pick for whatever reason. Like, I think OKC will go with like a potentially versatile forward with like some skill flashes at 15. That might be Sengwe, that might be Demon, or it's God, who were we just talking about? Why am I blanking? Who were we just talking about before Demon and Sengwe? Why am I? Hello? Oh, Carter Bryant. Yeah. I just completely forgot who we were talking about. Yeah, so I feel like it's one of those guys where it's a big, or it's just like a very, very solid, you know, like Colin Murray Boyles type pick. Like, I don't think they go Traore. They have Topic, right? Like, I don't think they go Jace Richardson. So, anyway.
I do feel like Carter Bryant kind of fits the Blazers.
He does.
Too.
And I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it if they were just like, we think he can be really, really good and we can really, really develop him and we like his combination of size, athleticism, and flashes. And
I can see them saying the same thing about Fleming, too.
Yeah. I think, like, Bryant has more upside than Fleming, though. So, like, if they were just like, we need a star, we recognize that, and at this point it's tough, but like this guy could be, you know, this year's version of Jalen Johnson down the line or something, and that's how they felt. I would actually kind of applaud them for them being willing to take a swing like that in the draft. Even if I didn't necessarily agree with like the reasoning of a prospect, it would kind of just be like, all right, at least it's like we're trying to get somebody we think could be really, really good in the future, instead of like, yeah, we have a lottery grade on Chris Murray, and you know that he's never going to return lottery value. So yeah.
What's up, Arshad?
Always good to see Arshad, man. Always good to see Arshad. Anyway, that's what we do at each pick. We'll see what pick the Blazers get on Monday. Looking forward to it. We'll answer your questions for like 5 minutes. If anybody needs life advice, I got you. And then we'll wrap up the stream. I know people have been asking for life advice, Eric. They want their favorite therapist back. So I'll put on my therapist cap and answer life advice questions if any of you need life advice. Or basketball streams. Or basketball questions. Mount Hood says stream's already done. I mean, yeah, we went live a little bit late. So yeah, don't want Eric to hate me. Because sleep is a little rough. Luckily on Monday our stream will be earlier. So that's good. That's good. What's the deal on Yaxel?
What do you mean, what's the deal?
He's either going to Michigan or entering the draft. The second round has just been murdered, Eric.
NIL, man.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's going to make college basketball a lot of fun. And in the future, it's like the second round is going to bounce back. It's just going to be a lot older prospects that we've been watching for years. Because like these guys will all enter the draft at some point. They're just prolonging it right now. So this is going to be like maybe a couple years where the second round is really weak because you had people, a lot of one and dones, and now you have a lot of people extending, so they're not entering the draft right now, but they will in the future. But yeah, you know how it's like every big board we make and we try and push it to 40, 50, and it just gets to the point where like, man, this is gross. I don't even know. Well, now that's like the 35th pick. It feels like. So I need to go watch some more Nicolas Avdalis or whatever his name is at this point. I mean, the Blazers are doing workouts, and it's just like remix guys to me. Like the biggest name has been Dink Pate, so it's just like, okay, cool, workouts are here, but what's the deal on as a prospect? He's big and has some skill. I think he could be a really good, like, well-rounded role player. Like
Who are you talking about?
Yaxel.
Oh.
Especially like he ends up on Boston or a team like that. I think he'll end up being really solid. I really liked Dink Pate's interview with our media guys. Seems like he has a good mentality. Yeah, he's been in like YouTube videos with like YouTube content creators doing stuff before, so I'm kind of familiar with him from that. Seems like a cool dude. His feel for like his archetype, he's supposed to be like a jumbo playmaker, but his feel for like making plays for others just is not even close to there. The shot is a problem, and then defense isn't as good as it should be. Dink goes to the rim. Nobody wants to hear that. Man, don't name shape. But we listened to Big Daddy all year, so nothing's worse than that. Or maybe nothing's better than that.
Depends on your perspective.
Yeah. Behringer has been creeping up each week on mocks. Yeah. I think he'll go like 26th. You know who's the sneaky late lottery guy that if we didn't have Klingon, I would maybe consider, I don't know, maybe in a trade down. Reynaud. Apparently scouts are higher on him than like mock drafts are. And it seems like there's a chance he could go in the lottery. He's 7 foot, moves really well, passing feel, developed as a rim protector this past year, shot 34% from three. I think he's this year's like Bub Carrington that rises into the lottery that people weren't thinking of as a lottery pick this time of year. Do you agree with that, or do you think that's too out there, Eric? Have you been hearing like all this talk about like scouts absolutely love him?
I will not say anything's like too crazy until there's measurements, because there's always someone who has, kind of surprisingly good size or big wingspan or something, or tests well in some of the athletic drills as a 7 foot
Hmm.
lumbering center or something, and uh, it improves his stock a little bit, um, or kills it in workouts, or shows, wow, this guy is going to be a 3 point specialist like Klingon showed in his workouts. So, like I'll never say it's crazy right now, but I would be a little surprised if he's lottery, like maybe top 20-ish. I could see for
Yeah.
sure, um, and maybe just because some of the other centers aren't really. This draft has a lot of forwards and a lot of like defensive guards, so or a lot of like players who show passing flashes but can't shoot or something. Like I don't know. Um, so I could definitely see a center sneaking up there. I don't know,
Erringer
man.
has gotten some hype.
Yeah, yeah.
Every year there's always a guy where it's like, whoa. So Reno rhymes with whoa, so that's what it's gonna be. Like I don't know what team takes him though. I guess is like the issue there. Chicago at 12. Like Dallas doesn't need to take him. Atlanta at 13. Of course, teams can trade picks, but San Antonio at 14. I could see OKC maybe that being like the big that they would take at 15 just because they like his traits as a role player. Um, but yeah, I think right now, like I'm taking Thonny's box 43rd pick. Like I think he's going first round for sure. And I think the other guy to watch maybe sneaking into the late lottery, Eric, is Walter Clayton Jr.
Hmm.
Like winning pedigree, competitor, a little better defender than he gets credit for, and just a lethal shooter. And teams love shooting,
Yeah. Um,
especially in this draft that doesn't have a lot of shooting in it. Actually,
Taylor asked who you think is the most likely prospect Cronin will like in the 10 range. Who is his Klingon this year?
calling the
It's
playoffs.
it's a lot harder to say that when you're picking 10th
Yeah,
versus like 7th or higher.
yeah.
It's just, I mean, even at 7 last year, they tried like crazy to move up to
Mm.
get Klingon, and got really lucky he fell into their lap, or that Memphis wasn't able to move past them at 6. So um, I don't know who is 10 range, but most of the guys we talked about at 10 when we were having that conversation, I could see Cronin going for those
Yeah.
guys. Like you said, Colin Murray Boyles. I mean, he's a good defender and stuff, so he fits into what they're going for. And then someone like Rasheer Fleming checks 2 boxes. He's kind of that lengthy, rangy defender that they like, and then if he's a good 3 point shooter like he was his last year in college, that also bodes well. So he kind of checks 2 things the Blazers are needing right now. So um, I don't know.
I
But,
yeah. I was this time last year. Did we know that they like Klingon? I don't think we knew yet.
um, yeah, I don't know if it was this early. It
Yeah,
was more towards
later
the
on in the
draft, but like
process.
Like even though we had Aiton, I mean, we were hoping this was the case, and it ended up being the case that they weren't like married to Klingon going forward,
Hmm.
So, um, I guess it wouldn't surprise me if we found out one of their players they don't like, even if it didn't make sense, because the core 5 that you bring up all the time, Tori, has someone at every position, so
Yeah.
they would have to be low on one of the core 5 for this to be shocking, I guess. But it's to me, it's a case this year where they can sit there at 10 and just take the best player available on their board instead of like, oh, we have to have Klingon because our rim protection sucks with Aiden, and
Yeah.
we need that rim protector so bad. It's like one of the missing pieces.
I think if they take the best player on their board, they're taking Colin Murray Boyles at 10. Somebody
He
asked
does
what my
seem
gut.
like that they would be like really high on
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, like he is such the perfect type of player for this front office, I feel like. They're valuing defense. They're valuing guys that have like passing flashes, passing feel, like guys that compete. They're willing to overlook maybe a lack of a shot and convince themselves like we could turn him into a shooter. Like they're talking with Klingon. He is absolutely. He has Blazers written right like all over him, and the only thing that makes me hesitate on that is like they know they need shooting, and that's his biggest weakness and his biggest issue. So it's like, do they take best player available, or are they like, oh man, we really need shooting, we're just gonna take Liam McNeely? I don't know. And if they don't take shooting, I think they just sit there and take the best player on the board and take Colin Murray Bowles and say we're in talent acquisition mode and basically figure out the rest later. So that's my gut feeling.
It'd be great, Tori,
What?
if they say we tried to get this player in Chris Murray, but we actually got a better version of Chris Murray.
If they just roasted Chris Murray,
Yeah.
I'd be down.
We were hoping Chris stepped up into this role, but we really needed someone to step up, and we feel like we just drafted a better Chris Murray.
That's so funny. They do like their
That's kinda
6'7"
how I
power
feel
forwards
about-
that struggle to shoot though. Yeah,
I feel like he is like a better version.
yeah, like not stiff,
kind of
more
plays
fluid.
similarly.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
like just
like-
moves much better.
Right, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Absolutely. Not hard to draft a better Chris Murray. Yeah, true. Are they even saying much if they said that? But I think this year it's far more likely that we don't know who they want until they draft. I don't think it's going to be like obvious where it's like we all know they want Klingon, because Klingon was in these rumors like potentially going number 1 overall, and it was like Portland's the floor and Portland is probably going to have to trade up, and then they didn't. But it was like, trade up for that guy.
For Zach Edey.
Yeah. Which like Zach Edey went 9, and like Memphis wanted Klingon, but they're willing to settle for Edey. So you kind of know what players teams are looking at. But I think Portland picking at 10 and just all the different names around there at that point, like I just don't think Portland's going to show their hand the same way. I don't think there's going to be a player there at 10 where they're like, we got to have this guy. I do think if there's a guy where it's like they really want to trade up for this player, I feel like it ends up being Trey Johnson. I feel like we're going to hear some Trey Johnson Portland rumors. Now, what the trade up looks like, I don't know. It kind of worries me, but like maybe a team wants Ant and 10, and the Blazers are willing to do it for Trey Johnson. Because if you're gonna go after Trey Johnson, like makes sense to trade Ant anyway. I don't know. Ultimately, I don't think they would trade up for Trey Johnson. I just think they sit there at 10, and Knipple won't fall, and they take Colin Murray Bowles. But I don't think we're going to be as confident in knowing who the Blazers want this time around.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I don't know. It's still so early in the process. Like we're gonna start to finally get some pieces to the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Starting, I know we've had a couple of workouts, but workouts after the combine and the lottery start to ramp up, and then just getting the information from the combine. Now that everyone has to measure, they can't get out of it unless they're hurt right now or something. But I think they still have to measure at some point. Mm-hmm. So we will actually have everyone's measurements and stuff. So that'll be awesome.
Yep. Final thing I'll say too, I'm just looking at the draft board right now. If the Blazers, so I was looking at this trade and somebody apparently suggested on a podcast or something, the Blazers trade down from 10 to Atlanta for 13 and 22, and the Blazers give up like second round picks as well to make up the value. And like if the Blazers did that trade, my kind of dream combo of players to draft would be Yegor Demon and Neek Clifford. Like Neek Clifford if he falls to 22, or Yegor Demon if he falls to 22. That to me is would be really exciting. Like just high upside, 6'9" point guard, can play point guard, maybe power forward, so all for you move him around, whatever. He has high upside. He's a project. But then Neek Clifford, like ready to go, fills in a need because his shooting is really developed, and then I think has some sneaky upside. Like I really like the combo. If the Blazers trade down and end up with 2 first-round picks, I think it makes sense to go with like very solid high-floor guy that fills a shooting need as well as just a swing for the fences.
Yeah, I think Nick Clifford is definitely, especially if they're talking playoff push.
Yeah.
So he's not as good as Jalen Williams, but they could think he's going to have like somewhat of a rotational helpful piece year one instead of having to wait or develop someone.
I would be really excited for him, man. I think he could be like a borderline top 50 player in the league one day. Like I think he has that level of upside. Yeah. I have a good gut feeling about Nick Clifford, man. I wouldn't hate if the Blazers took him at 10, which I think seems high to people. But anyway, we'll talk more prospects, especially Monday after the draft lottery. Anything else, Eric?
No, thanks everyone for watching. Yeah, hope to see you guys for that draft lottery stream on Monday.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Fun.
Yep. Hopefully Eric can be there for that. We'll go live, assuming the lottery drawings at 4. We'll go live like 3:15, maybe. Just kind of chill, hang out for 45 minutes before the lottery, and then of course we'll talk about the fall of the lottery. We kind of set the table though. If the Blazers end up 10, we kind of set the table with the stream. So hopefully you enjoyed. Shout out to BetUS. Appreciate them as always. Shout out to everybody that liked the stream. We appreciate you. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All that good stuff. Follow the social media pages down in the description box below. We're going to start posting more on TikTok, especially. Have a couple things queued up there. So you guys are going to get some content over there. So make sure you go follow those pages. And have a good rest of your Thursday night and a good weekend. We'll catch you live again with the draft lottery on Monday. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!